Hey guys, welcome to English. So today we are going to be talking all about clauses and subordinating conjunctions. So you're going to be needing your workbook pages 277 as well as 278, which look like this. So first we're going to go over the concept, look at some examples, and then we will do the guided practice together, and you will complete the independent practice section and the apply and write section on your own. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So first of all, why is it even important that we know about these things? Well, subordinating conjunctions are going to help you become a better writer. So it's going to help you write more detailed sentences, varied sentences. So, instead of just writing simple sentences after each other, you can use different lengths of sentences as well. So basically, it will help us become better writers. Now, before we get started, and before we learn about these subordinating conjunctions, we need to talk about clauses. So clauses are just groups of words that have a subject and a verb. That's it. So clause has a subject and a verb. These are all examples of groups of words that have a subject and a verb, right? So as you can see, subject is red and verb is blue. So I went to 7-Eleven, I stayed home during the pandemic, my cat ate dinner, dad baked cookies, when I sing, after I finish homework, because your brother is tall. You might notice that some of these phrases sound a little weird, and we're actually going to be talking about why, right? But the conclusion is we have a subject and a verb. Now, there are two different types of clauses, independent and dependent. Okay? Independent clauses don't need anybody. They can stand on their own, and it has a complete thought. For example, I went to 7-Eleven. I stayed home during the pandemic. My cat ate dinner. And my dad baked cookies. They're complete sentences, right? Can we agree on that? Yeah? So they're independent. Dependent clauses, on the other hand, they're dependent, meaning they need something else to make the sentence sound complete. So, dependent clause cannot stand alone, and it always starts with a subordinating conjunction, which is what we're going to be talking about today. A dependent clause can also hang in the beginning or the end of a sentence, right? For example, tell me if these clauses sound weird to you. When I sing, after I finish homework, because our brother is tall. Okay, and what about it? We need more detail, right? When I sing, when you sing what? What happens after I finish homework? Okay, well, what'd you do after you finish homework? Because our brother is tall. All right, and you see how it doesn't have a complete thought. It's very different from the independent clauses. So those are the two types of clauses that we're talking about. Now, what does this have to do with subordinating conjunctions, Ms. Oak? Well, you need a subordinating conjunction to join the dependent clause to an independent clause. So the subordinating conjunction is like the glue that holds these two clauses together to make a more complex sentence. So, if you look in your workbook, it will give you a nice list of the most common subordinating conjunctions. Now, let's look at some examples. So we're going to look at these dependent clauses. Tell me, which ones are the subordinating conjunctions? When I sing is when, yes. After I finish homework, after, right? Because your brother is tall, because. These guys are dependent clauses because it starts with a subordinating conjunction, like we can see here. Now, we need these in order to make a complete sentence if we add an independent clause to it. So this is dependent, dependent, dependent. I sound like a whale. Independent, I slept. independent. He can reach the bookshelf, independent. Do you see the pattern? And an independent clause becomes a dependent clause if you add a subordinating conjunction in the beginning of it. So for example, these are the independent clauses we looked at earlier. They're complete thoughts. But as soon as you add a subordinating conjunction in the front of it, it sounds weird. For example, when I went to 7-Eleven. Okay, and if I stayed home during the pandemic. While my cat ate dinner. Since my dad baked cookies, ... You see how these conjunctions change the sentiment of the clauses. And another thing to keep in mind is you need to add a comma after a dependent clause that's in the beginning of the sentence. So, for example, when I went to 7-Eleven, comma, I saw my teacher. If I stayed home during the pandemic, comma, I will be doing my part. While my cat ate dinner, comma, I watched a movie. Since my dad baked cookies, comma, the entire family had desserts, right? And just remember that dependent clauses, I know right now these are all in the beginning, but these can also be at the end instead. In that case, you don't need a comma. So all of these sentences will actually become like this. I saw my teacher when I went to 7-Eleven. So they're just flipped, okay? I would be doing my part if I stayed home. I watched a movie while my cat ate dinner. Entire family had dessert since my dad baked cookies. But you see how since the dependent clauses are at the end, you don't need a comma here, just in the beginning. All right, so going back to the beginning, looking at these two pictures, which is which? I have literally no idea how to be a doctor. Is this independent or dependent? Because there are lots of Guatemalas, those are the names of the eggs. Is this independent or dependent? You can say it out loud. Ta-da! So the first one is independent because it has a complete thought. And the second one is dependent because it starts with a subordinate conjunction because, and because it is not a complete thought. If you added these together, then it might be a complete sentence. It'll be like, I have literally no idea how to be a doctor because there are lots of Guatemalas. Kind of doesn't make sense, but you get the idea. All right, now let's go ahead and practice. So go to open to page 277. Okay, if you like to read this box, go ahead and pause the video and read it. These are the common subordinate conjunctions we're going to be paying attention to. So, I know, just ignore all the IDs and the circles. You'll see why I have them. Circle the subordinating conjunction in each sentence. Write I if the underlined clause is independent, and write D if it is dependent. So remember, dependent starts with a subordinating conjunction, cannot stand alone. Let's try number 1. Although the Taj Mahal seems like a place, it is a great tomb. So this is the Taj Mahal. What is the subordinating conjunction here? Although. Good. Now let's look at the underlined clause. Although the Taj Mahal seems like a palace. So ignore this part. Is that clause independent or dependent? It's dependent, right? Because it starts with subordinating conjunction and it makes you say like, okay, although it seems like a palace, what about it? It's not complete. Number 2, when Emperor Shah Jahan's wife died, comma, he built a magnificent building for her tomb. Subordinating conjunction is when? Yes. He built a magnificent building for her tomb. Dependent or independent? Independent, because it does not start with a subordinating conjunction, right? And if we got rid of this section, it could still stand alone. He built a magnificent building for her tomb. How nice. Number 3, the emperor wanted everyone to remember his wife because he loved her so much. Subordinating conjunction? Because the emperor wanted everyone to remember his wife. Is that independent or dependent? Independent, because it is a complete thought. It's like a complete sentence. Number 4. She was buried in a nearby garden until the tomb was completed 22 years later. Subordinating conjunction. Until. Now, until the tomb was completed 22 years later. Independent or dependent? Dependent. Number 5. Before building could begin, talented architects made plans for the tomb. Subordinating conjunction here is before. Before building could begin. Is that independent or dependent? Dependent. It cannot stand alone. All right, I hope that made sense. Let's go ahead and do the second section. Use a subordinating conjunction to combine the sentences. Add a comma when necessary. Remember, we're adding a comma after a dependent clause that's in the beginning of the sentence, just like these guys here. Before building could begin, comma. When Emperor Shah Jahan's wife died, comma. Although the Taj Mahal seems like a palace, comma, okay? But if it comes after, you don't add a comma, okay? All right, so let's choose subordinating conjunctions here. The tomb was being built. 20,000 people worked on it. So we can't just use any, right? We have to kind of look at which ones make sense. So the tomb is being built, was being built, and 20,000 people were working on it. So we could say while, could say as. So let's do, the tomb was being built as 20,000 people worked on it. Do we need a comma, boys and girls? No. Why? Because our dependent clause is at the end of the sentence. So we can do this, or if we want to flip it around, we can do as 20,000 people worked on it, comma, the tomb was being built. So you could do it this way as well. Okay, let's try number 7. The emperor was buried in the Taj Mahal. His wife was buried there. Okay, let's look at some of these conjunctions. We could say the emperor was buried in the Taj Mahal after his wife was buried there, or because his wife was buried there, since his wife was buried there. Yeah, like, or before his wife was buried there. It changes the meaning of the sentence, right? Let's do before. Now, I'm going to show you 2 options again. The emperor was buried in the Taj Mahal before his wife was buried there. So we could do that. Do we need a comma here? No, we don't, because the dependent clause is at the end of the sentence. But if we want to switch the dependent with the independent, then we do need a comma. Before his wife was buried there, the emperor, comma, was buried in the Taj Mahal. Right? Because we have the subordinating conjunction in the beginning, so we have a comma here. All right, I hope that this video helped you. This concept might be very confusing at first. It's something that you're going to be practicing years throughout your schooling. So don't feel frustrated if you don't get it right away. Just do your best, because the next page is basically the same thing that we just did together. Do your best. And it's okay to make mistakes, because that's how you learn, right? And if you have questions, just let me know. Google Classroom, email, YouTube. And yeah, that is our lesson. So make sure to complete this page and try to write the 3 sentences using subordinating conjunctions. And yes, you are on your way to becoming a even more fantastic writer. Have a great afternoon, and I'll see you in math class.